So earlier today I had my first sensory deprivation tank experience. So I thought I would offer you some perspective of what it's like as a first timer and what you can expect to happen realistically. I had heard about them for a long time. Guys like Joe Rogan always talk about the mental and physical benefits that it gives them, and that some people have these sort of almost psychedelic like realizations and visualizations while they're in the tank. For me, it wasn't really like that with my first time, but I definitely can understand how you can get to that point. So just to preface it, I am no meditation guru. It's something that I try to do, but I haven't been super consistent with it. For me, any session that's like over 10 minutes, I have trouble sitting still with. I'm somebody who's like just constantly on go, in a sense, where I always feel like I have to be doing something or thinking about something or planning or preparing. And for a while I kind of had this mindset that would make me happy and productive, but I realized that truly being productive is being well rested and is being present in the moment and not wrapped up in your mind and constantly engaging in inner dialogue all the time. So I've kind of had this mantra over the past 2 months of just learning how to surrender and just be, because I've never done that in my life, right? I'm always trying to plan and prepare, and how do I put myself in best positions, and I'm constantly thinking, and it just leads to a bunch of unnecessary stress and eventually burnout, which just sort of erases all the productivity that might come from constantly feeling like you have to do something. So that was my main reason for wanting to try the tank out. So in terms of the one I did, it was really cool. The staff was great. They were super comforting. They answered any questions I had, and it was like a private room that has a shower, and then the tank is in there. They fill up the tank for you, and then they close the door to the room, and then you can enter whenever you feel like. You can get out at any time. It does not lock or anything like that. I had a little bit of fear of being claustrophobic initially, but I didn't really run into any problems. Especially after the first 10 minutes, I was good. So it's filled with Epsom salts. So you flow effortlessly, and what I would recommend, or what I wish I did differently, is to like stretch, especially if you're a tense person, to stretch out, sort of relax your body a little bit. That way you can maximize your time in the tank, and then you're not in the tank trying to, relax. I would recommend going in there already in a state where your muscles are relaxed and everything. So in mine, it was completely pitch black. They did have lights and an option to play music inside of the tank. If you prefer, you could switch that at any time, which I thought was really cool if you sort of want to ease into it instead of just completely diving in. I chose to just go complete silence and complete darkness. So initially, my first 10 minutes was a lot of just watching my thoughts in a way, if that makes sense. Like just having all these thoughts about my life and my current situation just pass. And it was like my brain is working rapidly, and it's like I did my best to just not engage with it. And then after a while, I would say the whole time there were still thoughts in my head. I don't think I achieved a completely clear head within the hour, but there were moments where I would kind of find myself, my consciousness going to a different place, in a sense, because it is, your eyes closed and your eyes open, everything looks the same, right? And I had my ears plugged, so I could feel vibrations of like the other, the tanks running, but I couldn't really hear anything. And then also the water is intentionally the same temperature as your body, so you don't feel as much. If you move, you can feel, But if you lie completely still long enough, you kind of just become numb to it. So it was unique, and I definitely kind of had some real minor hallucinations. Nothing like explicit, but just, when you close your eyes and you see all those colors, it was like that amplified, like that taken to a next level. So like I said, for me, any meditation session over 10 minutes, I kind of struggle with sitting still, and those impulses for me to move around or stretch, or even get out of the tank, did arise multiple times. So I was just trying to breathe through that and, acclimate it and really surrender to the moment. But like I said, I feel like these things, like learning how to completely relax and learning how to be entirely in the moment, is sort of a skill. Just like anything, the more you do it, the more you practice at it, the better you get. So I can understand why somebody who has done it consistently could have these crazy realizations and crazy epiphanies. Now, I will say that I think sensory deprivation tanks do, sort of assist you with getting to those places in your mind. But I do think those places are entirely achievable with meditation alone. So if you're someone who is experienced with meditation and, meditation just sort of comes easy to you, I think you would thrive in a sensory deprivation tank. That being said, that's not me. So there was an adjustment period for me. But, even with that adjustment period, the hour really did fly by, and I did feel relaxed at the end, especially my body. I wasn't expecting that, but I do think all the Epsom salts and just soaking in that for a while does help relieve some stress. So it was beneficial, and it's definitely something I want to do it again. Now things like sensory deprivation tanks aren't necessarily cheap. So I would recommend that if you're not someone who meditates or does yoga or breathing exercises or other mindfulness practices, I would definitely advise, starting with something free. Like you can do a breathing exercise and meditation and get acclimated to those states of mind before going into a sensory deprivation tank. That way, when you do pay for the tank, your time in the tank is going to be optimized and you're not going through a learning curve. But all in all, I definitely do see myself going back. And I did feel a lot better. And it's kind of, sort of reminded me of how things like meditation and breathing exercises can make me feel and how much stress that they can alleviate. And those things are really powerful. So I think that's what I'm going to focus on, trying to reintegrate those things back into my day-to-day life. But ultimately, it was a good experience. I don't think it's going to be some, mushroom trip type experience. I could see how it could get there over time once you're, acclimated to the tanks. But initially, it's nothing that crazy. But I would definitely recommend it. I think it's good to sort of completely unplug and just be alone with your thoughts and allow yourself to process life. That's something that I don't think enough people do. We're constantly programming, man. Like constantly listening to music, watching TV, YouTube, Netflix, just constantly taking in information. We don't always allow ourselves to mentally digest, and I think taking time to mentally digest is important, and it's going to save a lot of stress and, save a lot of stress and anxieties down the line, right? Because when you constantly suppress things like that, eventually it all comes back and it all boils up, and then we have these explosive, destructive moments in life, and these low points, which I think, obviously low points in general aren't entirely unavoidable, but there's a lot of self-inflicted wounds that can be avoided through things like meditation, things like breathing exercises, things like just sitting in silence. So all in all, I would recommend. I did enjoy it. I do expect to go back maybe in a few months or so. But, like I said, it's nothing crazy. It's nothing that you couldn't achieve through meditation. But I could definitely see how profound these experiences could become. That was quite clear to me, even that I'm not the greatest at relaxing, at quieting my mind. That's something that I'm working on. But I could understand if someone who is experienced with that, and who has developed that skill, I could see how they could have a very profound experience in those tanks, because it's quite unique. Like, how often in life do you not rely on your senses? But yeah, so it was a cool experience, but I would definitely recommend going in there with realistic expectations, kind of knowing yourself. But yeah, thank you for watching.